Have you noticed that some people have walked with God for many years, yet still panic when trouble comes, while others remain calm even in strong storms? Same church, same Bible, same God, but very different reactions. It quietly makes you wonder, why does my faith still shake like this? The Bible shows that faith is not flat. It grows in stages, like a seed becoming a plant and then a strong tree. In the beginning, it is fragile. Later, it grows deeper, and over time, it can stand firm against strong winds. God does not measure your faith by how many years you've believed, but by how deeply your heart has learned to trust Him. As we walk through these levels, something beautiful may happen inside you. By the end of this journey, you might see your faith with new clarity. You may understand why your faith shakes in some seasons and stands firm in others. And you may discover that God has been growing you far more than you realized. And every small step you take in faith brings you a little closer to God's heart. The faith that asks. For many believers, faith begins in a moment of desperation. Something hurts or scares you, and all you can say is, "Lord, please help me." This is the first level of faith, the faith that asks. It is like a child running to their father after falling down. No perfect words, just a cry for help. God is not offended by this. Honest cries move His heart more than polished prayers. In Mark 10, blind Bartimaeus heard Jesus passing by and called out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." People tried to silence him, but he cried out even louder, and Jesus stopped for him. In Mark 5, a woman who had been bleeding for 12 painful years pushed through a crowd just to reach Jesus. She spent all her money trying to get better, but nothing helped. Yet, she said in her heart, "If I can just touch His clothes, I will be healed." She reached out, touched His robe, and instantly the bleeding stopped. Jesus turned, saw her trembling, and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well." 2 hurting people, 2 simple cries. Jesus responded. That is the faith that asks. This level is not wrong. It is where most of us begin. But it is a doorway, not the destination. If we stay only here, prayer becomes like a vending machine. When God answers quickly, we want the next miracle. Sometimes God does answer fast to show His kindness, but often He allows us to wait, so our hearts shift from chasing results to seeking relationships. Waiting teaches us to trust His timing more than our own. Now, how do we grow in this stage? By being honest in prayer, and then sitting with God after we ask. A quiet moment, 1 verse, a small prayer of gratitude. These simple rhythms begin to reshape the heart. You may not see a visible miracle yet, but something deeper is forming. You bring your pain to God instead of running. The early roots of faith begin to grow, and those roots are preparing you for the next level. The faith that trusts. The faith that trusts often begins when the prayers of asking seem to go unanswered. You cry out, hold on to verses, and yet nothing moves. Heaven feels quiet. But in God's hands, that silence becomes a gentle place where your heart learns to listen more deeply. Trusting faith is not blind optimism, and it is not pretending everything is fine. It is a quiet confidence that God is still good, even when your situation stays the same. It whispers, "I don't understand what God is doing, but I still trust who He is." Think of Abraham. God promised him a son, yet the years passed and nothing changed. Still, he chose to trust because he knew the one who spoke the promise was faithful. And think of Job. After losing almost everything, he could still say, "Though He slayed me, yet will I trust Him." He did not understand God's plan, but he rested in God's heart. It is in moments like these that a gentle shift begins inside you. Your faith moves from "God can" to "God knows best." You stop measuring God by results and begin trusting His character above all. Waiting becomes part of your growth. It builds endurance in your spirit. Silence strengthens faith the way deep soil strengthens roots. In these hidden seasons, God removes shallow ideas and forms a trust that does not break easily. As trust grows, your prayers begin to change. You still bring your needs to God, but your tone softens. Instead of saying, "Lord, fix this now," your heart begins to say, "Lord, stay with me through this." Your focus moves from outcomes to His presence, and slowly, panic gives way to peace. Trusting faith still has tears and questions, but it does not quit. It keeps returning, keeps worshiping, keeps obeying even when answers are slow. And from that steady place, God prepares you for the next level. The faith that abides. The faith that abides goes beyond asking and even beyond trusting in hard seasons. It is living in continual communion with God. At this level, faith becomes less about reaching for God in emergencies and more about staying close to Him each day. Jesus gives us a picture in John 15 when He says, "I am the vine, you are the branches." A branch does not strain or struggle to produce fruit. It simply stays connected to the vine. Abiding faith is like that, less striving, more resting in His presence. When you abide, you begin to recognize God in the small moments of your day. A quiet morning, a gentle nudge in your heart. Prayer becomes a rhythm, not a ritual. You stop visiting God like a guest and begin living with Him like a close friend. Gethsemane shows us the heart of abiding. Jesus prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me." That was honestly asking. But then He said, "Not my will, but yours be done." That is the essence of abiding, letting your heart align with God's. It is where surrender becomes peace. What does abiding produce? It brings a deep peace that circumstances cannot shake. It creates inner stability and calm. Obedience becomes lighter, almost joyful. Compassion begins to flow more naturally. Your life becomes quietly available for God to use. And slowly, your identity begins to shift. You are no longer defined by what you do for God, but by resting in who you are with Him. The outcome is a peaceful, steady, unshakable life anchored in God's presence. And before God moves you deeper, He often uses one more tool to shape you: the test of waiting. Between every level of faith lies a season of waiting. Waiting is not a mistake in your story. It is one of God's quiet tools to grow you. In His hands, waiting becomes preparation, not punishment. We see this pattern in Abraham, Joseph, and David. Abraham waited many years for Isaac. Joseph waited through slavery and prison before stepping into leadership. David was anointed as king, yet spent years in hiding. Each of them was shaped in silence before they were trusted with greater responsibility. Waiting also reveals what lives inside us. It uncovers our desire for control, our weak places in trust and patience, and even our hidden motives. It gently asks, do we love God Himself or only His gifts? Will we walk with Him when nothing makes sense? These questions rise to the surface only in seasons of delay. In the hidden years, God's work often happens underground. Like roots growing quietly in the soil, He builds depth, endurance, and humility. And to help us endure waiting, He gives us simple tools. His promises steady our hearts when feelings shift. Small daily rhythms, prayer, gratitude, faithfulness in what is in front of us keep us anchored. And the right people around us help keep hope alive when our strength feels low. When we walk with God through waiting instead of running from it, something beautiful begins to grow. Our faith no longer fears silence. Our heart becomes more aligned with God's timing. And often, this lesson becomes clearest through a real story. A friend's story. I once had a friend whose journey showed these levels in a very human way. He loved God and served faithfully, but one year, everything collapsed. He lost his job, his savings disappeared, and bills began to grow. He prayed, but heaven felt silent. Think about that for a moment. Many of us know how that silence feels. At first, he lived in the faith that asks. His prayers were intense and desperate. God, open a door. Give me a job. Please fix this. He fasted, quoted scriptures, and tried everything he knew. When nothing changed, frustration and fear filled his heart. He wondered if God had closed the door on him. But slowly, something began to shift. One night, he prayed, Lord, I still need a job, but more than that, I need you with me in this. He stopped demanding answers and started asking for God's presence. He began to thank God for small things, food on the table, a friend who checked in, strength for one more day. Peace began forming inside him long before any breakthrough came. Later, while reading John 15, he was deeply moved by Jesus' words, "Abide in me." He realized God was inviting him not only to trust in the storm, but to live close to him every day. So he started spending quiet time each morning with scripture and silence. Some days he spoke very little. He simply sat with God. Slowly, anxiety faded and rest grew. He had stepped into the faith that abides. Months later, a job offer came unexpectedly. A company mentioned his name in a meeting and reached out. He was grateful, but he told me the real miracle wasn't the job. The real miracle was what God did in my heart while I was waiting. His journey became a living picture, asking in crisis, trusting in delay, and abiding in daily communion. And maybe his story is gently speaking to your own heart today. Which level of faith are you in? Every believer's faith grows through these three stages: the faith that asks, the faith that trusts, and the faith that abides. God is not disappointed with you for being in one stage or another. He is patient and personal in our journey, gently leading us forward one step at a time. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, which level describes me right now? Are you in a season of asking, where your heart is full of need? God hears you. Are you in a season of trusting, where answers feel slow? God is strengthening you. Are you learning to abide, living in daily nearness with Him? God delights in that. The true sign of mature faith is not how many miracles you have seen, but how much peace remains in your heart when miracles are delayed. The closer you draw to God's presence, the calmer your soul becomes, even when life feels loud. Wherever you are today, don't stay there. Keep moving deeper. Because in the end, the greatest miracle is not what God does for you, but how closely He brings you to Himself as your faith grows.